What's it like for you being a private citizen?
Well, it's great, really. It really is nice. We're enjoying our home in Texas a lot. We have a new house. And,
Furniture yet?
Getting some furniture. We're had a lot of fun working on that. We're both working on our memoirs, writing our memoirs, and then we're also building the Presidential Library at SMU with the Institute that'll be a part of it. And I've been the chairman of the design committee, and that's been a lot of fun to work with Bob Stern, our architect, and Michael Van Valkenburg, our landscape architect. And we just had our last design meeting, so now we'll go to the construction plans and get ready. I hope to break ground sometime in a little over a year.
Give us a taste of your memoirs. Give us a tease.
Well, I'm talking really about, of course, about the years in the White House, a lot of it about the years in the White House, but also my vantage point, the viewpoint that I had living inside the White House to, these really very dramatic times that we lived in, certainly, and
what would surprise
times.
Readers, for example?
Well, I think maybe parts of my background will surprise readers. I'm talking about growing up in West Texas and what that was like, and I think there's maybe a stereotypical view of what that would be that I think people will be interested to hear what it was really like.
And what it was really like on 9/11 or
That's right.
on
and
critical moments,
exactly.
or the war in Iraq,
so all of that will be part of it. And it's been fun and interesting to work on because it's, there's something sort of psychological, I think, about writing your memoirs.
Cathartic.
And as you go through it, you see a lot of sides of every part of it that happened to you.
How's President Bush doing? Is he glad to be out of the spotlight?
He's doing very well, thank you for asking. He's riding his mountain bike a lot, he likes that, and he's very disciplined about writing his memoirs. In fact, I'm
Better than
ashamed
you?
yes, a lot better than me. He's always been a lot more disciplined than I am, so he's working on those. I keep telling him that I've gotten to the second grade in my memoirs.
How do you think the world will remember him?
Well, I think the world will remember him for really what he is, and that's what I think people will get to see, both from his memoirs and from mine, and that is somebody who stood for freedom and who stood for the security of our country. And I think people know that. I think the people that really know him know what he's like, and they see what he stood for, and that's the freedom of 50 million people in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Many around the world would say that he stood for divisiveness and destructiveness.
Well,
in
I
much
would
of the
say
world.
that that's absolutely not right. And I don't think they have either the right view of him or what his responsibilities are and were as President of the United States.
How do you think Michelle Obama's doing?
I think she's doing great. I think she's doing
What strikes
very
you?
well.
Well, you've been there, you've seen
I
it.
saw her at the funeral, Teddy Kennedy's funeral last week, and asked her about the girls and how they're doing. And I know what she's doing, and it's what every woman who moves there does, and that's try to make it a home, both for her husband, who's the president, and for her children.
President Obama is giving a back-to-school speech, and there's so much controversy over that. Do you think it's a good idea?
I think that there is a place for the President of the United States to talk to school children and encourage school children, and I think there are a lot of people that should do the same, and that is encourage their own children to stay in school and to study hard and to try to achieve the dreams that they have. I also am happy that it seems like the Obama administration has not backed off the accountability part of the No Child Left Behind Act that President Bush worked with Ted Kennedy on to pass, and I think that's really important. We want every American child to have the very best education possible, and I think that's what that legislation really demands.
The issue that's been raised is by many conservatives that are critical of this. They say that this is a dangerous socialist plot. It's indoctrinating school children. Some parents say, no, our kids are staying home and not going to listen to the president talk about education and schools.
Well, that's their right. That certainly is the right of parents to choose what they want their children to hear in school. But I think really what people were unhappy about were the guidelines that went out with the before the speech went out, and I think those have been changed. And I think it's also really important for everyone to respect the President of the United States.
Do you think that it's fair that Obama is criticized as a socialist?
I have no idea whether it's fair. Do you think I thought it was fair when President Bush was criticized? Not really. So I guess not.
Well, President Bush was criticized. He was called by many in the left as a fascist. What kind of advice would you give President Obama in how to handle a situation like that?
You know, any advice. I don't think I need to give him any advice, but I think it's just what happens, and people know it. And our country is, you know, because of our very really safe congressional districts everywhere in our country, we're polarized in the sense that a lot of people on the right, a lot of people on the left, and we've seen that for the last 8 years, certainly. And we're still seeing it, and that's just a fact. And I think it's important for everybody who's elected, Republicans and Democrats and Independents, to do what they can to really be bipartisan and to come together. And it's difficult. I mean, I know that was one of the real disappointments for my husband when he moved to Washington, because in Texas, when he had worked with the Democrat Speaker of the House and the Democrat Lieutenant Governor, they'd been able to really come together for what was best for our state. And he was disappointed that that was not the way it worked out in Washington. And we're just still seeing that, I think. And, you know, that's just a fact of life in American politics. And I think people, I'm sure President Obama didn't expect it to be that way, but, you know, it is that way. And I think all of us need to do what we can to try to come together on issues.
Do you think he's doing a good job, President Obama?
I think he is. I think he's got, you know, he's got a lot on his plate. And he's tackled a lot to start with, and that's probably made it more difficult.
Has it been difficult that Vice President Cheney has been so outspoken about so many issues where President Bush deliberately decided to not speak out?
I think that Vice President Cheney has every right to speak out. And I appreciate that he's defending the Bush administration and his administration. I think that's important. I think there's a place for that. George, as a former president, chose not to speak out. He doesn't think that, he thinks that the president deserves the respect and the no second guessing on the part of the former president. He didn't like it when he was criticized by former presidents, and he just, that's what he's chosen to do. But it's certainly Vice President Cheney's right to say whatever he wants to say. That's one of the really great things about the United States. And that
but it doesn't bother the president.
People can have a role.
But he's out there
being
critical.
Of course
and
not.
Is he still in touch with former Vice
President
Cheney
talk
quite often?
Occasionally.